everybody. We're so excited. This is my really amazing, beautiful friend, Kristen Welsh. Kristen, can you tell us a little bit about you, what you do, where you're from?
Of course. So I'm originally from New Jersey, and I moved to New York City right out of high school. So when I was 18, I moved to New York, and I had moved there to go to a conservatory. It was a 2-year musical theater conservatory. And within 6 weeks, I dropped out because I had to have knee surgery.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And so when my recovery was coming to a close, and when you're going to conservatory, it's not like you're going for English and math and all that stuff. It's specifically you rely on your body to take a test or present a project.
Right.
So I had missed so much curriculum because I couldn't take part in a majority of the things because I was out of commission, if you will, for quite some time.
Yeah.
So when that time came around, I had decided that I didn't think school was for me. And from the start, I didn't my gut feeling was I don't really know if that's for me, but I still gave it a go just to give it a go. And so when I kind of had the choice at this point to either go back into my program or not, I was I think I kind of need to make a go of this. I just had that gut feeling in me that I was I just feel stagnant. I feel like I just have to make a go of it. And if I fall on my face, I fall on my face.
Yeah.
So when it came time, and I was talking, to my parents, and, we were really familiar with the city because growing up in New Jersey, it's kind of like your backyard, if you will, especially if you're from central North Jersey area, you're 45 minutes, from the city.
Yeah.
Which is a huge blessing, growing up as a dancer around that.
Gosh.
And my parents were okay, you have a year. And if I didn't book a job in that year, I was going back to school. And I was okay. All right, we got this.
A lot of pressure.
And I had committed to, I said I would make my own curriculum and going to Broadway Dance Center and steps and kind of taking voice lessons on my own. And I said I would make my own curriculum. I just didn't want to go back to school. I wanted to be in the audition scene. I wanted to know what it was like. I was so hungry to know that process. And, when I was in high school, I always joke and say I had senioritis my junior year of high school because I was just itching so badly to move to New York and to know what that world was that I had seen on, social media and this and that I was I want to be at auditions all day long. I want to be doing that. Now, being in auditions all day long, you're I don't know if this is everything that I thought. I'm just kidding. It's a lot. But so right before I had hit that year mark, I booked my first job. And through the the whole year, I was making it to the end of a lot of things, and I just wasn't booking anything. And there was a lot of defeat and frustration with that. It's it was that, the carrot just dangling in front of you, and you just feel you're running after it. And I was getting really stressed that I was oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go back to school. There's that whole pressure of that. And then by the grace of God, right as that year hit, I had booked my first job, and I went out to Hershey Park and did their Christmas show, which was an amazing experience. It was awesome. It was such a great first job to do because you really got to learn the corporate side of performing and the musical theater side of performing. I didn't do plays in high school. I didn't do musical theater growing up. I didn't know anything about really, I knew about musical theater, but I didn't know what it took to be a part of it. My whole life, I was just, really tunnel vision on wanting to become a Rockette. But I knew that the likelihood of that happening, it was honestly, I would highly recommend it to anyone. RWS is an incredible company. They take such good care of you. I can't sing their praises enough. And so, I was so tunnel vision on becoming a Rockette, but I knew that the percentage of that happening was a pretty low chance. And so I was okay, I should probably learn how to sing to back myself up on.
Right. Because have you always been an amazing tapper?
Tap is always been one of my strong suits. Yes.
Okay. I figured.
It's always been like a huge passion of mine. So yeah, so I was like, all right, I should probably learn how to sing.
Right.
So, and growing up at strictly a dancer, you're like, I don't sing. I'm just a dancer. I'm not going to learn how to sing. I fought my mom tooth and nail for years and years about taking voice lessons. And then finally I caved, and I'm so glad that I did. And she'll probably see this and be like, I told you so. So then after I did Hershey, I came back to the city, and I was super tunnel vision on auditioning for Rockettes that year. Cause I had an audition. I auditioned for it my first year, like right after I graduated high school, and I got cut the first round. I just went because I like legally was able to go.
So how old were you on your first audition for the Rockettes?
I was 18.
You were 18.
I was 18 in my first one, and I got cut. I wore like this bright yellow leotard. The whole 9 years to stand out to get cut the first round.
Of course.
Which I had gone into that experience totally expecting for that to happen. And of course there was a part of me that was like, man, but
of course
I knew that was going to happen because I think the first year that I auditioned was like the year that they had cut all of their other productions. I think that was the first year that I had auditioned. And so I kind of went into it knowing the likelihood of this happening.
Of like, okay.
And you know what? I'm so glad that I didn't book it that young, because I still booked it young, but I am so glad that I didn't book it at 18, because I had so much more to be proven and to learn.
To grow.
And there was just like a level of like respect that I needed to kind of not respect, because I respected like, a performing job, but I think it was just like, it was understanding the level of commitment. I think that's really what it was. And at 18, I don't think I quite had a grasp on that. And that's why having Hershey as my first job was such a blessing, because it was a huge commitment. It was a lot of work. And so I'm really glad that I had that as my first experience.
Yeah.
So I had come back from Hershey, and I was, doing the whole audition scene or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go for it. Cause I had taken a year off from auditioning for Rockettes because I had surgery. So I didn't audition that year. So now we're in 2017.
Okay. 2017. Okay.
Spring of 2017. I had booked Mamma Mia in Hilton Head, which was a blast. And I was so grateful I got to go and do that. That was like my first true musical.
Right.
And I had the opportunity to understudy while I was down there, and just kind of got to learn so many different moving parts of a musical that I was never privy to. So that was a huge blessing. And I feel like there was a lot of times, I mean, I'm only 23, so I can't even say like a lot of times in my career, because I have
but you've started really young. So yes.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I'm so grateful and I feel so blessed that I've been in a lot of situations where the person behind the table has really taken a chance on me, because I didn't have the backing on my resume to really.
Right. You got to start somewhere, and that's
got to start somewhere. And that was my biggest thing for so long, when I was like getting cut and this and that, and like you evaluate yourself and how you do in an audition room. And I remember leaving, and I was just like, I don't understand. Like, they want you to have experience, but at the same time,
you have to have
someone has to take that chance on you. Yeah, someone has to take that chance on you and trust that you're just as capable as the person that maybe has had like a million things on their resume.
Yeah.
So I feel very blessed, because when I did Mamma Mia and Hilton Head, the director of choreographer was Casey Colgan, who I absolutely love and adore, and he has taken chances on me multiple times in my career thus far. And I'm so grateful for that trust, because it's a rare kind of situation to be in, I feel, in this industry, is for someone to place their trust in you,
Oh yeah.
And
risk on you.
Yeah. And so that same year, right before I had gone down to Hilton Head, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to the Rockette audition. And I made it all the way to the end. And this was now my second time auditioning. And I was like, okay. And I was like, really excited, this and that. So I was down in Hilton Head and I was in the hospital with a concussion.
What?
Because I got a concussion in rehearsal.
Oh no.
And when I was in the hospital,
oh my God.
I like had saw on social media that like they had interviewed a few girls at the end of the audition, and my interview had come out. And then I found out like I didn't get it. And so then I was definitely like defeated. Of course, like, you know, your ego gets a little bruised when you're like, man, I made it that far. I really thought that time, you know, but it really is like, I keep saying like by the grace of God, God's timing, but it's so true that like your greater plan ends up being so much better for you than you thought. And I'm again so glad that I didn't get it at that time. Now looking back, I'm glad that I didn't get it, because that whole summer I was like training for it every day. Like I was a workout maniac while I was doing the show down there.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure.
And I was like trying to prep myself, you know, to be ready to audition again. And then I got back and I was like, I don't think I'm going to go. I said, I was talking to my boyfriend at the time. And I said, I don't think I'm going to go. I don't think I'm ready. You know, I've been away from New York for, you know, almost 3 months now. I feel like I need to be in dance class. Like, I think I'm just going to wait. And I had said the same thing to my parents, and all of them were like, no.
Are you kidding?
They're like, you're going.
Yeah,
and I was like,
no question.
Yeah, no. Yeah. And at the time, my boyfriend shipped out all through college because he went to a merchant marine school. So we were like strictly communicating by email that whole summer because he was out at sea. And I remember just saying, like, I don't think I'm going to go. And I remember him typing back and being like, okay, we'll talk about it when I get home. Because he was just like, there's no way you're not going.
Yeah.
And I cried, and it was the fear in me of, rejection. I felt like I had to go back 10 times better than, you know, what I came in. And that all attributes to like your body image and this and that. It's like, okay, well, was it my dancing? Was it how I looked? Was it my eyelashes that day?
Right.
You know, you go into that whole gambit. And I was like, and finally my boyfriend and my parents were like, Kristen, if we have to put your leotard on you and put you in the car and drop you at Radio City, you're going.
You're like, fine,
I'll go. And I, you know, I was so extremely nervous. Weird that when I walked back in there that time, I think it was more like, oh, okay, I've done this before. I can do it again. And if it's not meant to be now, then that's okay. And I wasn't like at peace with it not happening, but I was just like, it's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. So I auditioned and I made it to the end again. And 2 weeks later, I'd gone on vacation with my boyfriend and his family, and we were running on the beach. And I saw that a bunch of calls were going out to girls that I was in like the final stages with. And I was like, I didn't get it. And I told my boyfriend, I go, can you just go back to the hotel? I need to be alone.
Yeah, I need a second.
I need to be alone. And
he's like, okay, Kristen, I'll let you be.
I got it. Yeah. And I was calling a mentor of mine. She was a Rockette for quite some time, for years and years, and then went on and did Broadway forever, and just one of those crazy talented humans. And she, I was calling her, and I was kind of like crying on the voicemail, and I was like, I just need to talk to you. I don't, you know, I don't think I got it. And as I was leaving the voicemail, Radio City called.
Oh my God.
And I didn't know that they were going alphabetically, and my last name is Welsh. So
right, so you're at the bottom. So you were too quick to judge.
I was too quick to judge. Yep. And
oh my gosh.
I remember her like calling me, and she was like, "Are you okay? Like, you were crying in the voicemail." And then yeah, and that's kind of how it happened. And every year since, you know, we re-audition for our jobs, and
right.
But
is that nerve-wracking every year to do that?
Yeah. I actually think that's more nerve-wracking than auditioning for the job for the first time, because you go in the first time with nothing to lose. And then after you do the job, you know what's at stake to be lost. And it's
you're like proving yourself that I'm still worthy to be here.
I'm still worthy to be here.
Oh my gosh.
And
terrifying.
Yeah. So that's kind of my journey to now.
That is so amazing. And I just remember, I mean, I feel like we've been like friends, but like I just have kept in contact with you through Instagram. And so you posting things, I've always been in contact with like what you're up to. And I remember that day that you said that you got the job of being a New York City Rockette. I flipped my lid and I remember calling my mom. So those of you who don't know, me and Kristen, we met, what year was it? Like 2010?
Are we the same? Are you 23?
Yes. Oh, I'm 24.
Okay, so I'm 24. So you're a year older than me.
Yeah.
So I think I was like 15 when we met. I'm pretty sure. I think we were like, I was like 15, you were 16. I don't even know.
We were at a Broadway Dance Center camp.
We were at, it was Ricky Hines. It was like a 3-day, which Ricky Hines, forever one of my favorite people in the entire world. The most amazing, just the most amazing kind of everything.
True.
And it was like a 3 or 4 day intensive at Broadway Dance Center. So thanks, Broadway Dance Center.
I know, literally though, I know, but I think we just clicked, and I just remember you just being like, I mean, since day one, you were like, I'm New York City Rockette. Like, that's what I'm doing. That's how you introduced yourself. And I'm like,
and it was one of those things that like, when I did find out that I booked the job, the amount of like love that I received,
oh my gosh,
was so incredible. And I looking back, you know, I was that kid that didn't go to birthday parties and this and that, because I would so much rather would have been at the dance studio.
Oh my gosh, same here.
And right, exactly. Like you know the sacrifice that goes into your craft and your art, and And I remember like me wanting to be a Rockette and working towards being a Rockette was such a huge part of my identity.
Yeah.
That after my first year, I mean, like, I'm very candid when it comes to like my mental health and emotional health. Like, I genuinely was kind of in a depression after my first year, because I had so heavily identified myself as Kristen the Rockette instead of Kristen, I am a Rockette, I do this, I do that. And I think that's kind of one of the, I don't want to say downsides, but just one of the things that comes with being a very young performer, is that you are, while you're trying to create a career, you're also trying to grow into yourself as an adult. And those are two very different paths. And I paralleled my journey as a Rockette with me growing as a person. And that was a huge mistake. Because who I am in a reindeer costume on stage, or, you know, what have you, is not who I am as a person. And it was so funny. I actually said this morning to my boyfriend, you know, I never thought of it like this. This is actually the first time someone's like interviewing me not as a Rockette. Mm-hmm. Which is so crazy for me to be like hair down, you know, pretty like neutral makeup, you know,
love that
every day. And I was like, you know, I'm not like awesome at talking about myself. And I think that's a lot of performers. It's not that I'm not good at it. It's uncomfortable for me. So, and I think a lot of performers are like that. You know, you worry about coming across a certain way and wanting to be like, come across as humble, but not, you know,
ungrateful.
Myself, not ungrateful, but you still want to be humbled by your experiences, but you also don't want to come across as like you're downing your experiences. So, you know,
I know
it's a very hard balance, and I think I feel like most performers struggle with that. Like, we're the most extroverted people, and we can perform in front of thousands of people, but then when it comes to talking to someone one-on-one, you're like, I'm not quite sure who I am.
You know, Kristen, I think that's a really important thing. I think growing up, looking at yourself in a mirror every single day, I think we're very, we're just so catered towards perfection all the time. And especially, I feel like, you know, so I feel the same way. I mean, I feel like I have a really hard time accepting a compliment, even from like, a boy, which is so silly.
Big time, because you should be like, yes, you're right. Thank you.
Right. Right.
It's so hard. And it also attributes to, you know, just the world of social media we live in. And I know that's a constant conversation in so many interviews, and, you know, but I really attribute a lot of that to kind of like the social media world now, is that like when like, say you're thinking of posting a picture and you're like, okay, I think I look really good in this, but then like, what if this person thinks this? And what if this person thinks that? And what if they think it's too risky or, you know, too scandalous, but like, I feel good about myself. Or, you know, you don't want to feel like you can post about a job because you don't want to come across like you're bragging, but then you're like, but I want my family and friends to know what I'm doing. It's just like this constant happy, like, struggle to find that happy medium,
right?
You know, of who am I pleasing and who am I not? And then at the end of the day, it's like, as a performer, you spend years trying to please everybody else. And then when it comes down to it, like, and I mean, this is a kind of a great way to go into the pandemic, but like this whole year was a true test of like, okay, now we're going to take all the wallpaper off the walls and actually look at like who you are as a person.
Yeah. Oh, Kristen, oh my gosh. Can I follow that up with a question for you?
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, I just love where this is going. This is just going natural. Beautiful. I love it. I just wanted to ask you, talking about the pandemic, during this pandemic, what has kept you inspired as an artist, and how has the pandemic affected your life as an artist? Obviously, Rockettes aren't a thing right now. So just talk to me about pandemic, some of the things that you've kept to keep sane. I mean, I'm curious as an artist to artist. I'm just curious of how you've gone through it.
Yeah. So at first I was like the first 2 weeks, I think my boyfriend and I were kind of like, this is like a big slumber party. Let's like make popcorn, let's watch movies, let's play games. Like we were like two little kids. And then by week 3, we were both like, all right,
Kate,
we're about done here, which I think pretty much the rest of the world can relate to this feeling. We all thought it was this giant slumber party, and now we're like,
yay, school's off. We don't have any school. Like that's how I felt.
Yeah. And now it's like, now I'm bored. I'm losing it. And so I kind of became like crazy workout maniac person, because
I feel like we all did.
There's
nothing else to do.
There's nothing else to do, and everyone else is doing it.
Right.
And so and we actually, at that point, we hadn't found out yet because we typically re-audition for our jobs in April. So we hadn't gotten word yet if it was happening or not happening. And I mean, obviously at that time, nobody knew what was happening, like in the state of the world, like what was going to happen next. So I had continued to train. Like I was kicking in my apartment every day. I was working out I was taking like 2 to 3 classes in my apartment a day. I was still kind of strictly dieting, like not strictly dieting, but like really maintaining a healthy lifestyle, you know, up until like we got the word. And at that time, just being prepared. And I didn't want to like take the situation for granted. So I just continued to be prepared. And I'm always the type of person, like I will count myself out of a situation until someone counts me in. Because I never, ever want to take what I have been given for granted, because I recognize the rarity in it.
Yeah.
And there are so many times that something can just be taken away from you. Obviously, we see that
especially now. Yes.
Yeah. So, and at that time we hadn't found out yet that the Christmas show wasn't happening. So I had continued to like, you know, work out every day, and my boyfriend and I got super into running. We were running like 6-7 miles a day, and
wow, that's fun. Running buddy.
I was having fun with it. He got to a point where he was like, Kristen, we cannot keep adding on more miles a day. We have to stop. He was like, I'm exhausted.
You're like, okay, buddy.
And the worst part was that it was his hobby before it was mine. And I just
you just took it. Like, great.
A little bit.
Oh my gosh.
And then, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there was a point over this summer where I like was not inspired. I had no motivation to take class. I had no motivation to work out. I was so in a depression that like thinking about, I was like, what? It got to a point where I was like, what is even the point of working out? Yeah. Because for me, for so many years, it wasn't like, let me work out to be healthy. It was, I have to work out for this audition.
Yep.
And that's not even just in a Rockettes, like that is all across the board. Feeling like you constantly have to be the best version of yourself at all times.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, the fear of not being in shape, it like cripples you.
Oh, it's so crippling.
I took a week off. Now I gotta.
Oh gosh.
I gotta like make up for that and go to 10 more classes this week. I get it.
Yeah. And that like for the month of July, I struggled big time, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I had no inspiration. I was like, take a jazz class. I'm not taking a jazz class. I was so like not there. I was not inspired. And it was such a scary feeling because, you know, like growing up, dance is your lifeline in so many, like when you're struggling at school, when you're struggling with friends, when you're struggling with just being a teenager, like dance was therapy. Dance was a lifeline. And in many situations, dance was at times like the closest friend that I had. Yeah. Because it, for me, was like my movement was the only thing that understood me sometimes. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh. That makes complete perfect sense.
Right?
It does.
And I think when you want to like do this professionally and you're just growing up in your normal everyday town, you do kind of feel a bit out of the mix. You do feel like you don't always belong because you're not following the path that everybody else is following.
Oh, 100%.
And there's a lot of judgment that comes with that too.
Oh,
and people don't realize by the way that they ask questions about it, you know, what are you going to do? When's your next job? This and that. The more I've like grown and tried to understand like where people are coming from when they do ask those questions, I also wish that sometimes people understood how it actually makes a performer feel when you're asking them what their next job is. Because it's not like you just have this roster of jobs lined up. You're blessed if you book one show out of an audition season, you know?
100%.
And it's not about racking them in. If you can show hop over the summer, that's great. That's amazing. But that's a rarity. And for you to book one thing in a season, people don't even understand that like most of the time you not booking something, it's not you. Yeah. And that's not you, it's me.
Honestly though.
and that kind of goes back with striving. I'll go back to like the whole pandemic thing. But I have I'm starting to understand or have this realization of how we strive for perfection. We strive to please other people, but most of the time we don't know what other people want from us.
And honestly,
it's a losing battle.
Yeah. Honestly though, too, with that, Kristen, like honestly, people care about us, but people genuinely don't really care what you do with your life. I mean, in a grand scheme of things, like they're not gonna be like, I don't know. I feel like in my mind, at least, I feel like, oh my gosh, everyone's like having this expectation of me. They want me to do this and this, and honestly, it doesn't really matter. Doesn't really care. They don't really care. I don't know.
No.
I mean,
it doesn't affect anybody else's everyday life.
It's your life. Yeah. I love it.
So in August, the first week of August, I don't remember the exact date, but that's when we found out the Christmas Spectacular wasn't happening. And
gosh, what were you
that was I ordered Chinese food that night. And I had a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I ordered a bagel for breakfast that day too.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
I mean, it was really sad, and it was, even though we knew it was coming, didn't make it easier, because I mean, I knew for me at 3 years of doing this, I couldn't imagine my Christmas without it. And then taking a step back and thinking about the women who have been there for 20 years, 15 years, I couldn't even fathom, if I knew how I was feeling, I couldn't even fathom how they were feeling. Because that, you know, I almost felt like I didn't have a right to be as that like distraught, because I couldn't stop thinking about the other women who had dedicated literally their entire lives to this job, and it's just gone in a day.
Well, you're so selfless in that. You're so humble and so sweet to even think of other people before you, because I feel like with this such change, it would be, woe is me, what am I going to do?
So I think we're all in like the privacy of our own homes with our families. Like, you're so allowed to have a woe is me moment. Like, have them, have 2, have 3. You know, it's okay to cry and be like, why is this happening to me right now? But then it's taking a step back and thinking, but this is happening to everybody. And in reality, we really were kind of just like the start. I think maybe Frozen had closed like right before we had found out. But after that, we were kind of the start of other shows closing as well. And then I started thinking too, like, you know, at least the Christmas Spectacular, knock on wood, everywhere, isn't going anywhere. And it's been this timeless tradition for 80 plus years, 90 years, or, you know, a very long time. And and then so we still have the possibility of and the hope to be there for people next Christmas. But other people in Broadway shows, those shows aren't opening again. And that's a sense of closure that they didn't get to have. You know, it's not getting to have that official final bow. It's not, and I can't even relate or imagine, you know, what
they must be
that feels like. So
what happened after that? Yeah, what happened like after that hit? What did you do? Now what?
So about 2 or 3 weeks later, I found out my childhood studio was closing. And
Kristen.
it just COVID. And they had been open for 21 years. And it was like, I often joke and say, I think I spent more hours there than I did in my house as a kid.
We all did.
Yeah. The owner was like my second mom. Her girls were like my sisters, and all the girls that we grew up dancing with, we were a pretty tight, you know, knit group of girls. And so I didn't realize how much it like emotionally what affected me, but it also was knowing that this pandemic like didn't just hit me or performers, it hit people that I love too, you know. And I did have family members that contracted COVID and were in the hospital. So it was seeing how COVID impacted people that I love in 2 different senses of like with the actual illness, but also
career-wise,
indirectly, career-wise. So at that point, like a week had gone by since like they had finally closed, and I would kind of every day I said to my boyfriend, I was like, there's just got to be like a pocket of kids that like still want to do something. And I had always said, I will never teach dance. I will never open a dance studio, and I will never move back to New Jersey.
Which is exactly what you did.
Currently, we're doing all 3 of those things.
Which is amazing.
But happily, so happily.
And I want you to share a little bit later, about what you're doing, and we'll close with that.
Yeah.
Please, anyone, but I would love to hear what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I had reached out to my business partner, Shannon. She was the daughter of my studio owner growing up.
Okay.
And I had reached out to her and her mom, and I said to them, we've got to do something. I don't care what it is. I don't like know a capacity that like I need to be a part of it or want to be a part of it. I just know that like there's got to be like, even if we just start with like doing privates with some kids, like there's got to be that pocket of kids that just still want to learn and like hadn't found another studio home yet.
Yes.
And but I said I want to take a different direction with it. I don't want to have your quintessential dance studio kind of structure. And they could not have agreed more. And they were like, we were thinking the same thing. Like, we knew that we wanted to do something with you, but we just didn't know what. And like, they were still recovering from the emotional toll of closing their lifelong business.
Oh my gosh.
So
right.
We were, you know, within that night, we had a pretty like loose business kind of agenda, if you will. I don't want to say plan, because it was, we didn't have a plan, but we had a good agenda. We had some good motivation. And I knew that I wanted to incorporate fitness because I had a lot of injuries growing up. I was a very injury prone kid. And I knew that I wish I had found strength training and fitness a lot sooner in my life, because I think it would have prevented a lot of injuries. And fitness like wasn't as big of a market when we were kids as it is now.
Right.
So
ballet, jazz, tap.
Yeah, you weren't, and at the time we weren't being encouraged to develop muscle in that kind of way, because it was going to make you look too bulky or look, you know,
right.
And you know, with a lot of reading, and I've done different certification programs, you know, throughout this past year, and learning about, it's not about like being bulky, like there's ways to be a muscular, lengthened, strong dancer.
Yes.
And that's kind of what led us to calling our studio Athletic Dance Institute, because
I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, it's really catchy. It's different. Yeah.
Thank
like you said, there's nothing really
out there. Yeah. And we wanted to make sure that people understood that they weren't just coming to enroll in like their ballet class, that they, you know, we were creating an environment for people to find like dance and fitness training. And so that's why I developed a strength and conditioning program for our kids. And they do strength and conditioning with me twice a week. And they've gotten so strong. They love it. They've gotten, they tell me they love it. I hope that they're telling me.
I'm sure you do.
But they've gotten so strong. And when we have been doing like a lot of confidence exercises with them and really trying to develop them into confident young women. And
yes.
When we had first met with their parents, I said it's not about them becoming a professional dancer. It's about them understanding at this age that with hard work and confidence, that in time, if they choose to be a professional dancer or a doctor, you know, that they're capable of anything because of what's been instilled in them at a young age. And
that is so beautiful.
Thank you.
That. Every kid needs that. Every person, every human needs that. Just somebody
we've had huge like confidence talks, and you know, and letting them know that I struggle with confidence, and my partner Shannon struggles with confidence, and all, you know, all of their teachers that they have at our studio have all struggled with that. Everyone has battled that, and that, you know, you don't just stop feeling that as a teenager. You constantly have that sense of questioning in you as a dancer, and
especially as a woman.
Especially as a woman. And it's teaching them, you know, how to overcome that and how to believe in themselves and know that they're capable of something. Because I think most of the time with dance, when you aren't capable of something technical, it's a lot of the times just because you're telling yourself you're not capable.
It's,
you know, mental. Like you do like a turn and you fall out of it. You're like, I just can't do it. Right. You can do it.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, we talked to them a lot too about how, yes, we're strengthening like all the muscles in their bodies, but their brains need to be strengthened too. And your brain is just as big of a muscle as any other part of your body. And when I say big, I mean important. Before we get technical. But it's just as vital of a muscle, and you have to, if you train it with negative thoughts, that's the only thing that you're going to learn how to practice. But if you train it with positive, confident thoughts, you're going to practice that. So we've developed that, and an adult fitness program too, and feeling like, you know, we feel like kind of Central Jersey kind of lacks that. And I think that's kind of any state. It's like the middle of your state. Like you're not getting that like urban quality, I guess, if you will. Like we're in North Jersey and into, you know, obviously New York City, the fitness community is massive.
Right.
but you have to pay ridiculous amounts of money to become fit, where we have tried to develop something where people are attracted to come and take a high intensity level class, but for a price that's reasonable. You shouldn't have to spend an arm and a leg to make yourself healthy.
No. Wow, I love that. What's the age range?
So like for our adult classes is
I guess
like 18 and up. Like it's 18 and up to come take a fitness class, but our like kids.
What's the youngest that you have?
That's a great question. I want to say maybe like 6 or 7.
Okay.
We're still working on, we really want to branch into like the littles.
Oh, yes.
But it's hard right now with the little ones because, you know, it's hard for them to keep a mask on, and people don't quite feel comfortable yet sending their little ones out when they don't know what this is going to say on or off.
Right. Oh my gosh.
And I respect that. I totally understand that.
I teach preschool sometimes on Fridays and Thursdays. And yeah, they're picking their nose. It's like some keep them on, some struggle, but they mostly do pretty good. So you'd be surprised. Yeah. But yeah, I agree.
Our older girls, and when I say older girls, I think our oldest is maybe like 12 or 13. Okay. But I give them so much credit because they dance with their mask on, they work out with their mask on, and they don't have a single complaint. Not once. Like we have never had to ask someone to put it on. Exactly. And that's another thing is like, they're so removed from everything and everyone right now. And they are so confined that coming here and creating a sense of community, it's not about yelling at someone to get something right. It's about encouraging someone to feel like they're coming to a nurturing community when they're sitting on their laptop all day in school, you know?
Oh, no. That's amazing.
So I'm very proud to say we're very strict with our COVID guidelines. We're very, we take it very seriously. So yeah, exactly. And that has been my huge saving grace during this time was for so long, like told myself I wouldn't open a studio. I wasn't interested in being a dance teacher. I did not have plans to move back to New Jersey until I was probably in my 30s.
Of course not. We never expected any of this to happen.
No. And we had made the decision to move to New Jersey. We've been here for almost 2 weeks now. And
congratulations on the move.
Thank you. And it was probably one of the best decisions we've ever made. And opening the studio was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. And the fact that I get to do it with so many people that I love, like I didn't have to I'm not just doing it by myself or with a random
you have this
partner. I have and that's been the biggest thing that I feel like I've been lacking was like, even like with teaching virtually in your living room, you still lack that sense of community.
Oh,
it's still really hard to feel. So to feel now like I'm in a place to get in the car and go to work.
Yep.
It's different. And my boyfriend had made a really good point. He goes, I didn't even realize that like you're trying to live an everyday life in 750 square feet. And I was like, that's a really good point that I didn't even put into perspective of why am I struggling so much? And then it's like, because I'm trying to, have my normal everyday life from the kitchen to the bathroom to the living room.
Oh my God.
To the bedroom. Like it's like a ping pong ball machine.
Workout, bed, workout.
And it's just the cycle. I don't know how many more times I'm going to do this, but
just switch around the room a little bit to make it seem a little new every once in a while.
Exactly. And two, it was understanding, like, for so many years, I was like, I think as a performer, you think that you can't want normalcy in your life. You can't want to have a family one day. You can't want to have that stuff.
Right.
And I at least think that there's a sense of a pressure there, especially as a woman, because it's like, if you want that stuff, it means you're not serious.
I remember in college, I remember telling my professors that I was going back to Utah to finish my degree because it was just too expensive at AMDA. And I kind of expressed I might want to start being a little more serious about figuring out what I really want to do in the future. I don't know. And I talked about family and how important that was to me. And I remember feeling you just started. Why are you talking about families? And of course it was like intended in my mind, like years down the road.
The grand scheme, yeah, in the grand scheme of life, not today or tomorrow, but in the grand scheme of life, yeah.
But in the midst of all of that conversation, I could feel like that pressure that you're talking about. Like, what? No, don't get married, don't have kids until you are well and done with everything and your body's done.
And this like pandemic has definitely made me realize, like, not even just in like the sense of, you know, getting married one day and having a family, just the sense of like, it's okay to want to be close to your family. It's okay. Like it's not a sense of failure. And during this time, like, I hated that I couldn't get in the car and just like drive by and visit a loved one. Like, you know, even if it was from the front porch or from the lawn, like, I hated that I couldn't do that. I miss my family so much. And my boyfriend's originally from New York, and same thing. He misses his family so much, and I miss them as well. And so that was another part of like why we wanted to move, was it was just time. It was just time to put things into perspective of what was important.
Oh, I was just going to say that. I feel like this whole lesson that we've all learned is, okay, you're right. I love how you said, like, strip down all the paper.
Yep.
Who am I? Like, as Kristen, not the Rockette, what's actually important to me, and what actually, like, if the world was to end tomorrow, what would I want to do? What would I want to say? Who I want to spend my time with? And it comes down to family, loved ones, and
if you're going to sleep at night, and like, as long as, I think the biggest important things to me, like when I'm going to bed, was I fulfilled by what I did that day? Did I make an impact on someone else? I could have made an impact on the mailman, but did I make an impact on somebody? You know, like, did I make someone feel better in their day? And that was a huge thing that I started to feel. And I hadn't felt that again in so long because of not performing. And we get that instant gratification from performing, right? Yes. You go out on stage, people are applauding for you, you're knowing that you please somebody. And it doesn't just have to be someone paying hundreds of dollars to sit in a seat to make you feel fulfilled. You know, like, you can feel fulfilled by helping someone get a double pirouette.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
And between that and knowing, like, that, you know, that you're loved and that you're putting the efforts into the people that you love, like, that's kind of what the importance of life is really, like, we're like put on this earth to love and be loved.
I love you, my dear friend.
No, I love you. I wish I could hug you.
Oh, you're so sweet. I'm just so, like, even you sitting here and having this conversation with me, you've done that already today. So you can cross that off the list. But seriously,
you as well.
You have always just been, even though we haven't spoken in years, like face to face, but like,
I just like saw you yesterday though.
I know. I feel like you're just someone so special to me. And I love that you are just so selfless. Your heart is just so big. You are so talented, and you mean a lot to a lot of people, even though I don't know a lot of your close niche friends, but I can already tell.
That's very sweet.
I mean, about all the support that you have with your studio and behind your career. I'm just so excited to see like what ends up happening. I think that this summer will be very telling of like how this world ends up kind of going, hopefully. I feel like hopefully there's things to look forward to. And obviously with your new studio, there's just so many beautiful kids that you can just inspire. I mean, Kristen, you are the most inspired. You're just so, everything that you say, the things that you do, your actions, the way that you put yourself out there, people just gravitate towards you. And I think that's a gift. And I don't think that's very rare. So I'm just so happy that you came to sit with me and talk. I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
If that's all right.
Of course.
I want to ask you, if there was something that you could say to an artist now, like big or small, age, whatever, during this pandemic, what would you say to them to keep them going or inspired? How, like, it could be maybe a little thing every day that you do to keep yourself motivated, or what's something that you would tell somebody that's still hoping maybe be on stage one day, even though it's all closed down, like what do you tell yourself? Like, is it like,
yeah,
what would you
every day I have to tell myself that this is temporary. This is temporary, and anything is temporary. There's no permanency to anything in life. And there's a little bit of scariness in that, but there's also kind of an excitement in like, this is just now.
Yeah.
And there is a part of me that feels like this kind of, as awful of a thing that COVID is and all the lives that we've lost, there was also something about it that it really forced people to slow down. And I think we've all gotten to that place. I hope that we all have, taken that time to understand the importance of, you don't have to take 10 dance classes a week, to be a successful dancer, in my opinion. That everything is temporary, and that I have to give myself a purpose, to continue. Like for me, right, to work out, to have a regimen, I have to have a greater purpose. So right now for me, like when January 1st hit, I said, that's it. It's 2021. It's the year of the Christmas Spectacular. We're going back into it. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but all I know is that I feel in my heart that there will be a 2021 Christmas Spectacular, and that's what I'm working towards.
Yes.
And there are some days that I stop and think, what if it doesn't happen? What am I doing all this for? Well, then when I think of it like that, I'm still doing it for the betterment of myself. I'm still doing it for the betterment of my students. So just continuing to remind yourself and check back into your greater purpose, I think is really one of the most important things, and something that I try to do daily, but I can be completely candid and say that it doesn't always happen successfully daily. And sometimes we do have woe is me days, and we do have why am I doing this days, and am I even affecting or impacting anybody? But know that every artist makes an impact. Every artist has an effect. So continuing to develop and know your craft, and not being afraid to be creative. And that's the benefit right now of social media, is like, it's an outlet for creativity when we use it positively. And so I would think, like, I honestly can say, like, it's reminding yourself that this is temporary, and that checking back in with your greater purpose as often as you can, I feel is really helpful.
Seriously. I also love, like, that you said, I mean, I feel like we're both a little religious, but like God's plan, God's timing is everything.
And that's like, if God isn't your thing, if prayer isn't your thing,
right,
then it's the universe's timing. Right. It's outer space's timing. It's whatever is your belief, whatever allows you to feel like you have there's something greater out there for you.
Yeah.
It's timing, and know that there's, whatever you believe, there's always something or someone out there that's looking out for you in the greater scheme of things.
Absolutely. Oh, amen. Right with you. And also just continuing to love everybody, and being that person, and trying to, I love what you said, like, every day I want to impact somebody, whether that's whatever it might be, small, big.
The mailman, but exactly.
Kristen.
Exactly. I'm so grateful that you've allowed me to come and talk with you. And
of course, it's
so special to be able to just have a conversation with someone like this, because I feel like so much conversation lately has been in terms of conflict, in terms of disagreement, and
hate.
So much like we can all feel and believe different things and still love one another and respect one another. And I firmly believe that despite whatever we all disagree on, or what have you, we still have that common ground of all needing and wanting to love and be loved. And that's it to me.
I agree with you.
So thank you for creating this space. And I'm so grateful that there's people like you out there that's allowing artists to come and kind of speak their truth during this time. And that, I felt such a safe space with you, and I'm so grateful for that.
Thank you. I feel like this is something that I feel like that hasn't been talked about. I feel like, I mean, we're all like, figuring it out as we go, but I feel like I haven't been able to actually talk to somebody about like, as an artist, how am I supposed to feel like I have a purpose? And I feel like this conversation hasn't really been a conversation. So that's why I was thinking you would be a perfect person to first have my first interview with, because you're such a dear friend and I look up to you in so many ways, more than one. And thank you again.
You as well. You as well, for sure.
And I like you, I'm thinking hopefully one of these days I'll move back to the city and I need to come see you. And
yeah, and hopefully one of these days I'll make it out towards you too.
Yes. Love you so much, friend. Take care.
Love you too. Thank you.